Ly Tu Diem here. Hello everyone. But peace was something I lost for a long time. Until the day our paths crossed again. That day, Toan stood before me, his eyes trembling with 1,000 unspoken nights. Tears fell not from sadness alone, but from the aching joy of finding what his soul had been searching for. He had missed me in the way the earth misses the rain, in the way the dawn waits for the sun. And in that fragile heartbeat, I realized I had been missed, deeply, desperately, and forever.
The rain fell softly that afternoon, painting the city in shades of silver and gray. Toan stood at the edge of the hospital garden, his hands trembling, his heart beating like a war drum in his chest. For weeks, his days had been filled with endless searching, his nights haunted by dreams of her face. He had imagined this moment 1,000 times, but when it finally arrived, his voice failed him. Tu Diem stood a few steps away, fragile yet unbroken. Her eyes, those same eyes he had memorized, looked at him with a mix of disbelief and hesitation. The world around them seemed to fade. There were no hospital sounds, no voices, no footsteps, only the echo of their hearts remembering each other. Toan, she whispered, and it was all it took. He closed the distance into strides, pulling her into his arms. The scent of her hair, the warmth of her skin, it was real. It was her. All the pain, the fear, the endless worry spilled out in the form of tears. He didn't care who saw him cry. He had lost her once, and had lived every day since with an emptiness nothing could fill. "I missed you so much," Toan choked out, his voice breaking. "I thought I would never find you again." Tu Diem's hands clung to his shirt, her own tears flowing freely. "I didn't know if I could come back, but I couldn't forget you." They stood there in the rain-like light of the cloudy day, two souls that had wandered far, but found their way back. Around them, the world continued. Doctors walked by. Leaves fell gently from the trees, but for Toan and Tu Diem, time had stopped. In that embrace, Toan made a silent vow. He would never let her go again, no matter how many storms came their way. The rain outside seemed to echo the pounding in Toan's chest as he held Tu Diem in his arms. For a moment, the world narrowed to just the sound of her breathing, shallow, uneven, but alive. His fingers trembled as they brushed the damp hair from her forehead. "I thought I lost you. Forever," he whispered, his voice breaking. Tu Diem's eyes opened slowly, confusion and recognition flickering together. The last time they had seen each other, her life had been hanging by a thread, both from the cruelty she had suffered and the endless days of wandering alone. Now, in his embrace, she felt a fragile safety, though her heart still carried the weight of all she had endured. "Toan, why are you crying?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. He shook his head, unable to stop the tears. "Because I missed you every single day. I searched everywhere, but I could never find you. Every night, I wondered if you were warm, if you had food, if you were still alive." Tu Diem looked away, her gaze lost in the shadows. "I didn't want you to find me. I thought I would only bring trouble to your life." "Trouble?" Toan's voice rose, not in anger, but in anguish. "You saved my life, Diem. You are the reason I'm standing here today. And yet, you believe you're a burden? No, you're the reason I keep fighting." For a long moment, the silence between them was filled only by the steady patter of rain against the windows. Then, slowly, Tu Diem reached out, her fingers curling around his. The warmth of his hand was real, grounding her in a way she had almost forgotten. "I was afraid," she admitted, "afraid you'd see me differently. afraid you pity me. Toan's grip tightened. I don't pity you. I respect you. I love you. Her breath caught, and for the first time, in what felt like an eternity, Tu Diem allowed herself to lean into him, to rest her head against his shoulder. The wall she had built to protect her fragile heart began to crack, letting in a light she thought she'd lost forever. Outside, the rain eased, as if the sky itself had decided it was time for a new beginning. The evening breeze carried the scent of blooming frangipani as they walked side by side, their steps slow, as if afraid that time might rush past and steal these moments away. Tu Diem's eyes were fixed on the ground, her thoughts tangled like threads she couldn't quite unravel. Toan glanced at her, wanting to speak, but fearing that the wrong words might shatter the fragile peace between them. Finally, he stopped, his voice low but trembling with emotion. Diem, all these months without you, I thought I could keep going. I buried myself in work, surrounded myself with people. But every night I would see your face in my dreams. I missed you more than I could bear. Her hands tightened around the straps of the small bag she carried. She could feel his sincerity in every word, and it stirred something deep within her, a warmth she thought she had buried under layers of fear and self-protection. Toan, she whispered, I never stopped thinking about you. But my life is complicated. I didn't want to drag you into the mess I've been running from. He stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. I don't care about the mess. I care about you. I would rather fight 1,000 storms with you than live one calm day without you. For a moment, the world seemed to fade away, the noise of the street, the hum of distant traffic, even the shadows of their troubled past. In that small bubble of silence, their hearts spoke more than their words ever could. Tu Diem's lips trembled, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could stop running. Toan's heart raced as they walked side by side through the quiet street. The night air was cool, but his hands felt warm from the brief touch of hers earlier. He kept glancing at her, afraid that if he blinked too long, she might disappear again, just like before. They stopped by a small cafe lit with golden light. Let's sit here, Toan suggested, his voice soft but carrying a weight of unspoken emotions. Tu Diem hesitated, then nodded. Inside, the scent of fresh coffee wrapped around them, but it was the sound of her gentle sigh that made his chest tighten. He asked about her days after they parted, and she told him bits and pieces about wandering through towns, working small jobs, and nights sleeping under the stars when she had nowhere to go. Her words were calm, but Toan could feel the pain hidden between each sentence. I searched everywhere, he said, his voice trembling. Every road, every market, every corner where I thought you might pass. I didn't stop, even when people told me to give up.
Tu Diem looked down, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. I didn't want you to find me, she admitted. Not because I didn't care, but because I thought I was trouble for you. Toan leaned forward, his gaze locking with hers. You were never trouble. You are the reason I learned how to care for someone with my whole heart. Without you, the days were just empty. Her eyes glistened, and for the first time that evening, she allowed herself to smile, not the polite, guarded smile she had worn earlier, but the real one, soft and full of memories. In that quiet moment, Toan knew one thing for certain. No matter how far she had run, no matter how long it took, he would never let her slip away again. In life, some reunions are more than just meetings, they are a second chance given by fate. The story of Toan and Tu Diem teaches us that love is not only about the moments we share in happiness, but also about the storms we survived together. Time apart tested their hearts, and the longing they carried became proof that their bond was real. True love does not demand perfection. It asks for patience, forgiveness, and understanding. Toan's tears were not a sign of weakness. They were a testament to the depth of his feelings, the pain of separation, and the joy of finally finding the one he had searched for so desperately. Tu Diem's return was not the end of their journey, but the beginning of a new chapter, one built on trust, respect, and mutual care. We often forget that love is a choice we make every day, not just a feeling we stumble upon. When life pulls us apart, the effort to come back together is what defines the strength of our connection. And sometimes, it is only after we almost lose someone that we truly understand their worth. In the end, Toan and Tu Diem's story reminds us, treasure the people who stand by you in your darkest hours. Because when you finally meet again, the embrace will not just be of arms, but of two souls that have found their way home.
Love, at its core, is an act of courage. It is the willingness to stand against fear, doubt, and the whispers of those who do not believe in your happiness. Toan proved that protecting someone you love means more than grand gestures. It means choosing them even when the world tells you not to. Tu Diem's courage was in her return, and daring to hope again despite all the wounds life had left on her heart. Their journey shows that relationships are not built in the calm, but in the storm. The days they endured apart made them value each moment together. The hardships became stepping stones, not barriers. Every tear shed was a seed of resilience, every sacrifice a silent promise to never let go again. We live in a world where it is easy to walk away when things get hard, but love worth keeping asks us to stay, to fight, and to grow stronger together. Toan and Tu Diem's reunion is proof that distance cannot erase a bond built on sincerity. It tells us that even when fate separates us, it can also conspire to bring us back if our hearts remain true. And so, the lesson is clear. Do not take love for granted. Hold it close, protect it fiercely, and cherish it daily. Because when the right person is found, every trial, every tear, and every mile apart will only make the reunion sweeter.